I remember, I guess, like in my early, what I'll say my mid 20s, I ran across a childhood friend who uh, who I hadn't seen, I guess, in like 10 years. And neither one of us were doing very good in life, but we were doing better than we had been. What I mean is, like, we had risen and we had fallen. And when we met up with each other, we were rising up. Like, we were just doing a little bit better. And both of us were, well, both of us seemed to be on the same page, or, well, I'll say we seemed to be on the same page spiritually to where we could just talk. I mean, like, talk and think, brainstorm, because that's what we both were interested in. We were both interested in moving forward. We both felt like we had made our mistakes, we had suffered, and we were very motivated to only focus on that which was valid and true, because we felt like falsehoods are what led us to suffering overall. So anyway, we hadn't seen each other in who knows how many years, and so it was a combination of uh, reminiscing and as well as brainstorming new ideas and all that stuff. We felt like two old war horses, and we started talking about a particular thing that I have not been able to forget since, and it's been almost 15, maybe 20 years. About no, let's say like 15 years later, and I still have not forgotten this, and I have thought about it off and on pretty regularly because I felt like it was extremely significant. We were talking about the subject of hell, and I asked him because he seemed at that time, at that moment, like he was in the zone spiritually where uh, I don't know, like he was very, very clear minded. Like his heart and his mind were very clear, and whatever's coming out of his mouth at that moment or at those times is going to be gold. So I asked him, who goes to hell? And his response to me was like the perfect or close to perfect response. Well, it was like one of the most perfect responses I can think of he gave to that question. And that the answer he gave was, he who creates it. Maybe a better or more perfect answer would have been they who created, but um, I'm not going to get this too technical, but, or maybe a perfect answer would be they who are Well, I can't even come up with the words. So maybe it was a pretty perfect answer because it's easy to remember and short. But over the years, I have consistently agreed with that answer because that answer not only agrees with my experiences, my personal experiences, and observing how others' lives turn out, but it also agrees with the overall values of most religions. It agrees with karma, or the principles of karma. It agrees with cause and effect. I think it's I think it agrees with uh, certain physics principles. I believe it's supported by science. So to be more specific, and some of you might take this very personally, and you should, because it's a very personal issue. I've said this before in a few videos, and I'll say it again. I think I may end up saying this till the day I die. It is understandable to be raised a certain way or to go through circumstances which cause you to live a life that are against against the laws of the land, as far as like you make your money by breaking laws or breaking moral codes. I think there's a certain level of, I feel like it's not that much of your fault if that's what you grew up in, if that's all you knew, if the framework of uh, your life was closely tied to crime and immorality. We have to grow. We just don't end up knowing things. We have to go through trial and error. We have to evolve mentally and spiritually. We make mistakes, so I understand. I understand those mistakes, or making mistakes when you're younger, or making mistakes um, when you're faced with situations that are beyond your experience and you made the best decision you could at that time, but it wasn't the best one and you regret it. I understand that. But to make a lifelong career, to make a lifelong choice, to make lifelong commitments to criminality and immorality, that's more of a choice. That's more of a conscious choice. So, since most religions and regions consider many of the same things crimes or vices like stealing, lying, killing, gossiping, they, well, most areas have some form of punishment, or most of these regions have developed systems to try to correct or separate those individuals from society for the betterment of that society or group or region. Those places are either some form of prison, some form of containment, or maybe a place of punishment, a place of public punishment. So that's what I believe hell or hell realms are. They are places of separation and punishment. I can't tell you that it's forever. I don't know. I hope it's not forever. That doesn't really seem fair. But at the same time, you can't be, well, at the same time, what type of beings would want you if you are mostly bad, if you're mostly predatorial, if you can't be trusted to respect law and value law and value enough forms of morality, where do you belong? You belong with people like that, or with beings and entities like that. That's where you belong. You belong around others that see things the way you do. You belong around others that think it's okay to steal for a career, for a lifelong career. They think stealing's okay. They think it's okay to groom and breed youth into those same values or value structures, you think that's okay. Well, if you think that's okay, then you belong with other people like that who think the same way, and see how that feels. Think about that. Think about what that must be like. Because if somebody was there before you, if others were there before you, they're going to be stronger than you, and they're going to have things already set up the way they want to have them set up. So depending on how much longer they were there, they have an advantage. So don't even think, I say that to say, don't even think or don't expect that when you go, if you go into one of those situations, that you're going to somehow be at an advantage over those who have been there for who knows how long. I mean, it's a possibility there are entities or beings that may have been there for centuries or thousands of, who knows? I don't even know if there's an increment of time that can even be used. But know that they were getting stronger. If they're there, it's possible that they were getting stronger in that. So I bring that up to say those are possibly the demons, or those are possibly what demons are. Entities that have been in that energy and that have, I guess you could say, evolved in that energy, in that destruction, in that uh, immorality. Like they've gotten stronger in it. So don't think you're going to be, if you do go to one of those places, don't expect to be top of the food chain. If some of you were planning on that. Me personally, I want to stay as far away from anything and everything that I'm aware of that will make me being around people like that just and appropriate because we are similar or because we belong together or because I don't fit in with anything better. Because I can't get in anywhere else. So this message is especially for all these groups out here that, and this is the silliest thing. It's silly and it's sad. I'm not coming from this angle where, like my my mother and father and elders kept drilling it in my head that if you're bad, you're gonna go to a bad place. If you're good, you're gonna go to a good place. That's not where this is coming from. I mean, it may have been a factor, but that's not where this is coming from. This is coming from someone who has observed quite a bit of cause and effect. It's inescapable. It's inescapable. And cause and effect are immediate. You can't escape it. You might escape you might escape a particular consequence, but you can't escape what your actions do to you. You can't escape how your actions and your thoughts have changed your being. You can't escape that. I don't know if any of you have heard that example, I guess, that was given by scientists, where I guess they say a butterfly's wing, I don't know, like hundreds of miles away, flapping creates an effect where you are. Something like that. I might be paraphrasing horribly, but they say that to say all of this is connected. There are spiritual implications to that phrasing. You cannot escape what you are or what you're becoming. You cannot escape any of your actions. Maybe you can escape a particular consequence. You might escape jail for a time, or you might escape death at a time or on occasion. But you cannot escape what you're becoming or what you became, what you grew into because of your decision. In the same way, you wouldn't value or trust a calculator that showed 5 when you put in 2 plus 2 equals. If you used a calculator, if you had a calculator and you put 2 plus 2 equals 5 in it, 2 plus 2, if you put 2 plus 2 equals in that calculator and it said 5, or it showed 5, no person in their right mind would use that calculator for any important calculations. Yet, we don't factor in that our wrong decisions or our bad decisions, our regrettable decisions, are impairing our ability to calculate validly. Our wrong decisions contribute to us continually making wrong mistakes. Well, how can I say it? it reminds me of how people become addicted to certain things, addicted to gambling, addicted to alcohol. I feel like the root in breaking all addictions lies in getting to the root of why you make those decisions, trying to figure out why. What is it about? And I don't feel like enough people do that. Enough people don't take enough time out of their day or week or month or year to gauge whether or not they have been making good decisions. And if they have been making bad decisions, they don't take enough time out of their life to question what caused them to be making these bad decisions. A lot of this has to do with not having enough faith and love, not having enough faith in peace to overcome obstacles, or not having enough faith in our own inner peace, or that we even have inner peace, not having enough faith in ourselves to feel, to reach a level of happiness or joy that does not involve sticking a needle in our arms or smoking something or drinking something or um, engaging in some type of practice with others that we might feel isn't uh, all that good. That could be that could just be wasting time. It could be gossiping. Could be what some people call idolatry. It could be sexual immorality, or what most religions consider sexual immorality, that is. So, again, I mean, this is the biggest thing I think I could tell anybody. You know, if you've made mistakes in your past because you didn't grow up maybe with the best factors around you to produce um, the best outcome or the best outcomes. You didn't grow up with money. You didn't, maybe your parents weren't living in the same house. Maybe you didn't have any parents at all. Maybe you grew up in the foster system. Maybe you grew up on the street. It's understandable that you would make decisions that were not, well, I'll say it's not just understandable to certain, well, maybe I can say it's justified that you would make certain decisions based on that because that is the best you were aware of. But once you start getting older, once you start seeing other ways of living and existing, you see and pick up things. And a lot of times, you choose to focus on what you want to focus on. We choose to focus on what we want to focus on. We don't want to be honest with ourselves, but there are 24 hours in a day. Well, they say there's 24 hours in a day, and that works for me. And we make the decision as to what we want to do in those hours, what we want to think about during those hours, what we want to put in our minds during those hours. For a large percentage of the population, I believe, sadly, what makes up what's in their minds and what's in their hearts on a daily basis is mainly uh, sports, uh, sexual gratification, or uh, material gratification, or gratification gained from making purchases or owning certain things. And experiencing these things with our friends and our family or whoever's near us, but it doesn't seem like most people spend much time thinking about the totality of existence, how it all fits in together. And because we're not thinking like that, we behave very similar to animals, fighting over territory, fighting for food, fighting for territory and resources because we can't see or we don't want to see a bigger picture or have a greater vision outside of ourselves or our group. So we must war, we must fight, and we must enslave anything outside of ourselves and our group. But it doesn't have to be that way. One interesting thing I like seeing, or I'll phrase it this way, but evidence of what I'm saying can be shown on YouTube pretty consistently when you see that a superior force has caused others to others that would not normally get along. By superior force, I mean a force that can see a bigger picture, And to be more experienced, to be more, I'm sorry, to be more specific about these examples, think about all of these animals that get along peaceably because man stepped in and put in a little effort to make sure they're both fed and make sure they both are familiar with affection, and that affection can be had by both of them and given by both of them or more to one another, even though maybe traditionally those species had a predator and prey relationship. One was food, and the other was, well, I said it already, predator and prey relationship. They went from having a predator and prey relationship to friends, in some cases, maybe being willing to put their lives on the line for one another and one another's offspring, all because an outside force, all because a force saw another option. Another force saw not just one view or two views, but a greater view that that all of them could get along if they had a mind to. And we see this daily. So many things that have been traditionally on the menu are also people's pets and can be made pets, and or we can have a friendship with, and we can make them or influence them to be friends with what may have been their food, or vice versa. This is the power of being able to see outside of your group or your individual self, being able to focus on the totality of things. Or this is a benefit of being able to focus on the totality of things. So back to the original topic, I feel if you willfully choose to not look outside of yourself, to not look outside of your group, and think about a bigger picture, and think about what's best for not just yourself, not just your group, but as many things as you are aware of, and steer your actions in a direction that is best for everything. In my opinion, that creates hell on this earth. On this earth, that creates existences which are hellish, or which are so painful people can call it hellish or feel like they were in hell in this life. So if you're contributing to that in this life, why would you go somewhere pleasant in the next life? And just to say it, if you don't believe in an afterlife or other existences or the potential for other existences, I think you need to spend at least 30 minutes, at least 10 to 30 minutes or more. I'll say 30 minutes or more, listening to stories of near death experiences and pay attention to the conviction of these people. Pay attention to whether or not they seem like they're lying. Use the same thinking or critical thinking that you use in daily life to make other decisions on focusing on whether or not these people are making all this stuff up based on, I don't know how many, I may have seen close to 100 or so or more videos where people are talking, I'll say maybe more videos where people are talking about experiences that make them just convinced that there is life after death or that there are other states of existence. So judge them. Don't just believe them. Think about what they're saying. Judge them. Judge whether or not they seem like they are lying. Listen to people of different religions, different backgrounds. I think a good start would be to look at the doctors, the testimonies by doctors, by professionals, people who have something to lose, people whose credibility is people whose professional careers are at stake. That's a good start. This is the most, your life or your existence is the most important thing you have. Don't let anybody think that don't let anything con you or convince you not to spend an adequate amount of time questioning whether or not you are moving in a direction which will negatively affect life as you know it or existence as you know it, possibly your eternity. I don't know. I don't want to believe that people will spend eternity in some type of torment. What I lean towards is at the worst. I mean, there are a couple of things I lean towards, but none of them are good for somebody who consciously and willfully has made a lifelong commitment to wrong behavior or to predatory and criminal behavior or behaviors that most regions and religions would consider immoral and criminal. I know we have our specific things. I know our regions have our specific things that we may or may not consider criminal or immoral. I'm not so much talking about those. I'm talking about the things we can agree on or that we've agreed on. Like lies are not the best thing to use as a well, I don't want to go too. I've said enough. Just think about everything I've said. What has triggered me to make this video or post is this, like when I look at gang culture and organized crime culture, it's so obvious to me that most of you are engaged in behaviors which are going to which create not just hell on this life, not just hell on this life, but will most likely contribute to you and your offspring, if they follow you, to experience hell or some type of hell realm or some unpleasant thing when they pass on. Because your values overall are not good. Now, you might think that they're good because you're amongst your groups, where maybe amongst your groups you will not steal, you will not kill, maybe. Maybe amongst your groups you somewhat treat each other nicely. But the facts are that many of you live in the shadows. You have to hide so much of what you do because you are predators of society. You are predators of humanity. You are lifelong predators. You have made lifelong commitments to prey on humanity, and you believe somehow, some way, you're going to be deserving of being somewhere pleasant when you pass on. I don't understand how you can make that decision. I think maybe most of you just don't even think about it in the first place, and that's why, and that's maybe the biggest part of the problem. Because I believe if anybody took an appropriate amount of time to really gauge their value systems, they would see that these decisions are ridiculous. They're highly irresponsible. It's as irresponsible as a gambling addict thinking that they can uh, somehow turn things around, even though they have countless experiences that show them that the odds are against them. Even though a chemically addicted person has had hundreds of experiences showing that the odds or supporting the odds that that decision is not going to be in their best favor or in their best interest, and they will regret that decision, they still keep moving in that direction. That's how I look at organized crime. And just by organized I mean, well, organized crime and organized corruption. I don't care if you're a street gang or if you're uh, in government or if you're uh, in a religion or whatever. for you to make consistent wrong consistent behaviors that go against uh, the values of most religions and most regions, publicly, that is. By publicly, I mean the values that we publicly say we value. If you go against these values consistently, you are, to me, you are on the same wavelength as the drug addicted person or the gambling addicted person or whatever 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 I think you know what I'm trying to say. It's the same pattern of thinking that you can make consistent wrong decisions and somehow it's going to work out. Like somehow it's the right thing, even though you've got all these signs that it's the wrong thing. You get all these signs, all of these consistent signs that it's the wrong thing. I mean, you people are worse. I think you people are worse, or might be worse than these other people, because I mean, you're gambling with your eternity. I mean, I'm not saying they're not gambling with their eternity, but I mean, when you to consciously be aware that most of your livelihood is connected to criminality and immorality and creates problems and suffering practically wherever it is or uh, wherever it's connected to or whatever is touched by it, you'll see some type of negative consequence like death, homelessness, drug addiction, and whatever other criminality. You think somehow, too many of you think somehow, some way it's right. Things are going to end up right for you. And that to me is it's not, it's beyond, it's almost beyond retarded. And I'm not trying to be insulting, but it's how many times, I mean, it's staring you right in the face. It's staring right in the face of so many of you, and you will not see it. You choose not to see it. That's maybe the biggest part of the problem. You choose not to think about these things. You choose not to see these things. You don't spend time thinking about these things. You think that you're just supposed to go through life uh, uh, finding something to fill your stomach and please your eyes and your private, and that's all existence is. And however you get those needs met doesn't matter. And you even think about the effects of those decisions. I mean, this is extremely foolish when you factor in eternity, that eternity is real. You're not planning for an eternity. You're not factoring in eternity. You're not factoring in eternity for yourself and the children you claim to love or the people you claim to love.